Okay then, well, let's look ahead to the future for Cork football quickly. And we said that the loss takes the shine off the Kerry win, but it's still been a good season. Promotion from Division 3, a championship win over a top 3 or 4 team, and a hugely important amount of championship minutes for some of the younger generation. Ronan McCarthy's term is up, but surely he has to be given another crack at this after leading what's essentially been a positive rebuild over the last few years. So, Diarmuid, I'll come to you first on that one. What do you think is the next step Cork need to take?
Yeah, I think it's important not to base, for Ronan himself and for the Cork County Board, I think it's important not to base any decision, on one game this year. So certainly not after this Tipperary game, because, when you look back after Kerry, people were lauding Ronan McCarthy after the tactical awareness and everything that he put together in order to beat Kerry. So I think you probably have to take the whole his whole term of 3 years. So I think the very first year they were beaten heavily by Kerry. Last year they were very unlucky in championship, and they ended up having a good run in the Super 8s. Taking Dublin to 60 minutes, really, staying with them for that long. And then this year, obviously beating Kerry was a huge plus, and it ended with the disappointment to Tipperary. But I suppose, having said that as well, in his time they went down to Division 3, and last year they ended up winning Division 3 league as well. So I suppose you have to take it in the whole. But one interesting thing I think that Ronan mentioned after the Kerry game was, he said that when he came first, he felt that an important thing he had to do was change the culture within the Cork setup. Now, I'm not privy to, Kieran isn't, you aren't, we're not privy to what was actually going on, within the dressing room walls or whatever. But if that is true, and if he has changed the culture of Cork football in terms of work ethic and attitude and all that, then I think that's a huge, huge positive, because Cork football was never going to be like a switch where you can turn it on and suddenly we'll be winning All-Irelands. It was always going to take time, and results were never going to be instant. So I think if that is something that is a legacy of Ronan's, where he's changed the culture now, you have guys who are willing to work hard and train hard for each other, then I think that's a huge plus. But going forward, I suppose, I don't know whether it'll be Ronan's decision or whether it'll be a county board decision, but I suppose the county board need to take a holistic approach on it and a view on it and see whether they have made progress over these 3 years. My own feeling is that I think they have. I think, if the season ended after Kerry last week, a lot of people's opinion would be that Cork are making serious progress here. So I think you wouldn't want to base it in one disappointing game, because Cork players know themselves they were disappointing last Sunday. The management will know they were disappointing, so I think it's a tough one, but I suppose Ronan will know himself whether he feels he can get more out of this group or not, and I suppose it's up to the county board really after that.
Kieran, you're writing about Ronan McCarthy in your column this week. Would you echo much of what Diarmuid's saying there?
100%. I think Diarmuid hit the nail on the head there, especially when it comes to that kind of the cultural change. Ronan wants footballers, or wants players who want to put Cork football first, and I think that's so important. I think back to the Ronan's first year in charge, and I was up in Portlaoise after Tyrone beat Cork. It was 320 to 13 points, and that was a terrible day. That was a really bad performance, and that was a huge low for this Cork football team. Just my little helper again. But since then, in the past 18 months, Cork under Ronan McCarthy and the management team that he's put in place, would include Kieran O'Neill, who was a very shrewd acquisition, and Kevin Smith there as well. They've definitely made progress in the last 18 months. And Ronan mentioned after the last day that I suppose the big kind of disappointment for him is that this young Cork group missed out on the chance to test themselves in an All-Ireland semi-final against Mayo and Croke Park, because he wants to see Cork involved in the big days on the big stage. And I feel that Ronan should be given another term. I think he's made enough progress over the last 18 months, and he's bringing through this kind of new youthful wave. And I think he needs to see through a little bit more. Maybe Ronan won't be there to see this team come to its kind of reach its potential in a couple of years' time. But I think it's a very important job now to continue on the kind of that upward trend that they have enjoyed over the last 18 months. People would be very, very quick to hammer the Cork footballers again after what we saw last Sunday. I know kind of it used to be said that the only consistent element about the Cork footballers in recent years was their inconsistency. But to be fair to them, over the last 18 months, I can't recall a performance as bad as they showed last Sunday against Tip. They've definitely got better in terms of consistency. They were putting up to the big teams last year. There's going to be setbacks along the way. There's going to be bumps and bruises. That was a particularly bad setback on Sunday. But I think Cork still need to take the positives from what they've achieved this year, and that was getting straight back out of Division 3 and back up to Division 2. And next year, Cork will face the likes of Mayo in Division 2, Meath are there, Kildare are there, Clare are there. So it's the next step up. We're probably all asking too much to expect this Cork team to win an All-Ireland in the next 3 years. But they're building towards something, and that should be a Munster championship. Whether it's next year or the year after, that should be the target there. But I think Ronan should stay there because I think there are better days ahead for this current group.
Well, let's leave it on that positive note then. Better days ahead for Cork after a disappointing Munster final loss